Let's get started. My name is Jake Kramer. I'm managing partner here at FedTech. We are really excited to have you all join us for this information webinar today to talk about the Lithuania to America Accelerator. This is dual use focused accelerator. We're super excited to be partnered with Innovation Agency Lithuania and InnoHub Lithuania. And we're going to go through all the slides. We have some additional information for you, and we're also going to leave a lot of room at the end for questions. If you want to ask a question now, what you can do is look at the bottom of your screen. There should be a more button, and there's a Q&A section there. So if you hit that Q&A button, you can submit questions. You can do it anonymously. You can attach your name to it. Whatever you want to do, but that's a good place to have the questions organized so that we can answer them promptly. So with that being said, I will hand it over to our partners at InnoHub.
Thanks, Jake. Hi, everyone. So this is the second in the series of two info sessions. We had one yesterday on the other program that's set up for this year. So USA Launchpad and FedTech, these are the two programs that Innovation Agency has selected as partners for this year. The programs were both put together pretty last minute, so we're super grateful that we could rely on partners that we have here in the US. So I just wanted to quickly introduce myself and Diana. I think there's some new faces that may not know us. So for that benefit, I'm Karolis or Karolis, as people call me in the US, and Diana. I'm based in Portland, Oregon area, and Diana is based in San Francisco. We started working on the project called InnoHub, which is sponsored, funded by the Innovation Agency in Lithuania back in January this year. And so it's been a little over half a year. We've talked to over 40 companies from Lithuania that are looking to enter the US market, and about 20 of them were continuing conversations. And as a project, the three main ways that we add value to Lithuanian companies is building a mentor network, and that includes both like Lithuanians working in the US as well as Americans and anybody that's interested in advising companies. We provide education, so we do monthly webinars on specific topics, and we do third part of it is we do in-person events. So when companies come to US for whether it's conferences or like delegations with specific purposes, we add value by getting them ready, getting them prepared, and also often adding additional like side events. So if you're coming to a conference, we might organize an additional networking event or a pitch event and add more value that way to really just give companies more opportunities to root themselves in the ecosystem. US is a big market and takes a lot of work, but we're seeing a lot of potential in Lithuanian companies, and program like this is super exciting for us to see shape up so quickly and be available before the end of the year. I think there's another slide maybe, but really, yeah, that we already introduced ourselves. So I think at this point, yeah, just excited to be here and looking forward to see which companies are interested in this and will participate. So handing it back to you, Jake and team.
Okay. Yeah, anything else to talk about here, or are we good to move on here?
I think I touched on that. I just forgot to advance it, so that's all good.
No problem at all. So this is the team here from FedTech, so I'll just do a quick intro here. As I mentioned, Jake Kramer, Managing Partner, Chief Product Officer here at FedTech. Prior to this, I was at Goldman Sachs in New York City. And then prior to that, I was a U.S. Army officer as well. So I've got a lot of experience on the ground dealing with defense technologies and how they integrate into the DoD, as well as my MBA from the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School. So I will hand it over to Jeff, and then we'll go down the line here.
Great. Thank you, Jake. Good morning and good afternoon, good evening. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Thank you all for taking the time to be here. So my name is Jeff Odlum. I have been an advisor with FedTech since 2021, and have been a mentor for FedTech startups in the Startup Studio program since about 2018, I think. Before I worked for FedTech, I was a U.S. diplomat for 27 years. So I lived and worked at U.S. embassies throughout Europe and throughout the Middle East. I worked on issues including European security, nuclear nonproliferation, counterterrorism, and emerging technology controls. And I had the privilege to visit Vilnius a few times and found it to be a wonderful city. And so looking forward very much to working with a cohort of companies that is selected for the Accelerator. So that's me. Over to our colleague, Cully.
Hi, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. My name is Cully Luthra. I've been at FedTech for about a year and a half now, run various programs across FedTech, including accelerator programs. Prior to FedTech, I was at a FinTech startup, so very similar situation to a lot of you all, growing businesses. Prior to that, I was a defense analyst. So I'm very familiar with the DoD space. So really excited to meet you all, and looking forward to this program.
Okay, and David will be joining us. I don't believe he's on as well. He'll be joining us during the actual program
Right.
once it starts. He focuses a lot on our technical and business assistance programs, which are focused working directly with companies that have won awards with U.S. government agencies and helping them progress and grow with their government customers. He's also a former U.S. Air Force veteran as well. All right, so let's go over we're gonna do a quick overview of FedTech, just super quick here. We design.
Hey, can I just interject real
Oh yeah,
quick?
yeah,
That
go ahead.
people can ask questions. There's a Q&A component and a chat component. So I highly encourage people to ask questions and make this super interactive, as that will get the most value out of everyone's time.
Absolutely, thank you so much. Yeah, so like I said, if you don't see it, make sure it's in the more section on the bottom or top, wherever your controls are, and then hit Q&A. So what we do, we've been operating now for about 8 or 9 years now, I think, and we execute custom deep tech programs for a lot of it for government agencies, working with startups, launching startups. We work with international companies quite a bit, and Jeff's going to talk more about that. As of now, we don't invest or take equity in the companies. We're totally focused on your success and don't have a financial conflict of interest of who we work with. So we're about 50 people based in the Arlington, Virginia area, which is right across the river from Washington, D.C. And we run about 40 programs a year. So we're a pretty big operation, but we're highly customized. This is some of the things that we do. So if you'll start on the left, you'll see we have internal innovation. This is working with large agencies and companies to provide the researchers, trainers, innovation training, everything from tech transfer to commercialization, moving up to our startup studios where we actually create companies around technology, deep tech, coming out of federal labs or universities. And then accelerators is where we work with existing companies and help accelerate their growth for whatever purpose they need. And so the bottom is just a few of our partners that we work with. You'll see lots of government agencies. You'll see lots of defense prime contractors as well. We have a very robust and large network. And then this is just, again, some more of our network of who we work with. And this is just a small sample of this, but we're highly focused, as you can tell, on dual use ecosystem here. Jeff.
Thank you, Jake. Excellent. So as I mentioned, I've been the advisor for international programming, which feeds well my diplomatic instinct. And I would say in the past decade, we have seen the development of some really dynamic, cutting edge technology ecosystems in Europe and in Asia. And we realize, as you do, that innovative technologies don't carry passports and they don't operate only within national borders. So FedTech has decided that we can't limit ourselves to working with US-based companies or customers. We have the goal of engaging technology partners on every continent and bringing the world's best technologies to the US government and to commercial markets. So next slide. I want to give a few brief examples of our international work. So we ran our first international accelerator program in 2019, working with the Korean government, South Korean government, and the Korean Innovation Center. We identified and selected, I think, 19 dynamic South Korean companies who were interested in developing commercial and government relationships, partnerships, and who are a good fit in U.S. markets across a range of technology areas. That program was more of a sprint that involved a 3-day boot camp in South Korea and a 2-week, very intensive full-time program in Washington, D.C. And in the end, it led to over 275 business leads. It led to a number of investor relationships and several relationships with U.S. defense prime contractors and interested U.S. government agencies. So that set the model of success for us and proved the concept. Next slide. Yeah, so this, since I think 2021, we have managed an international accelerator program for the U.S. Army called X-Tech International, where every year this 3-month program identifies about 10 to 15 leading technology startups from around the world and provides them with education, advisory services and mentors and matchmaking to Defense Department and defense sector customers. It's very similar to the program components of the current program that we'll talk about very shortly. But since 2021, and including the current 2024 accelerator, which actually has its final pitch event today in Madrid, Spain, we've accelerated about 40 international dual-use tech startups, and about 40% of those have been able to develop some type of enduring partnership relationship with a DoD program, a DoD entity, or a defense sector partner within about 6 months of the program conclusion. So again, the proof of concept is definitely there. We feel very confident in our ability to help non-U.S. companies navigate U.S. government partners and programs and opportunities. Next slide, one more quick example. Yeah, so since last year, when Indian Prime Minister Modi visited the U.S. on a state visit, we have been developing very close, very cooperative relationships with the Indian Ministry of Defense and with leading Indian private sector companies and with India's very fast-growing tech accelerator ecosystem. And we are actually in talks to launch an accelerator program for dual-use Indian companies soon. So the point I want to make with this is that the world is very interconnected. Many of the world's best technologies are coming from relatively new sources and locations, and we want FedTech wants to be the best experts at the forefront of international technology acceleration and partnership and tech transfer. So next slide. These are just some quotations from international companies we worked with. Bottom line is that they've appreciated the impact that our workshops and mentors and matchmaking have made on their readiness to enter U.S. markets. So now let's, in the interest of time, let's go ahead and dive into the Lithuania to America Accelerator Program.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so as I mentioned, this is a program that we're focused on dual-use companies. The objective here is to provide you all access to U.S. contracts, connect with government and industry leaders. This we plan on also having significant support as part of our programs. We always have mentorship that could include everything from getting you ready for investors, business development guidance, targeting, all those kinds of really key things. And then also a structured program with milestones. So we are not just sharing education, we are holding everyone accountable for the milestones that they set at the beginning to ensure we have the maximum impact for success. The goals here are simple, and you can hit all 4 of these goals if it's you, or if you have one of these goals that's most relevant for you, then we'll focus on that. We just don't know exactly where you are in your journey, but we are aimed to achieve 4 goals across the cohort. One is position you all to be reliable suppliers for advanced technology firms. This could be Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, BAE Systems, whoever is your targeted supplier or targeted a prime contractor that you're looking to integrate into their supply chain, or it could be just a commercially focused company as well, and be an advanced supplier for them. The second is to enable you all to meet critical US and NATO needs for your technology. The third is to accelerate you with momentum and knowledge to sustain your U.S. market presence. This is not, again, just an educational based program. This is our goal is to have you succeed in the U.S. well beyond after our program ends. And then the fourth one, if you are looking to attract US-based investors, we're going to put you in the best possible position to do so.
I'm happy to jump in here. Great. So we're going to look at the core components of what this accelerator program will offer. So really, to help Lithuanian companies successfully navigate and thrive in the US, we're going to build this around 5 core pillars or components. First will be the weekly educational programming, which will be held by virtual webinar, and that's where top experts will come speak to and interact with the cohort on topics that are directly relevant to helping the companies enter US markets. And we're going to customize these webinars based on the specific needs and specific interests of the cohort. The second component or second pillar is diverse expert level mentorship. We plan to assign an advisor to every company who can help answer questions, give advice, and make sector introductions. And these advisors will have a high level mix of government, military, commercial, and technical backgrounds. The third pillar is venture building consulting. So our own team will also work with the companies in our cohort during weekly office hours and during other one-on-one sessions and opportunities. And we're going to help identify important stakeholders to meet. We'll help find industry case studies that will be relevant to your technologies and help advise on how US commercial and government markets work. The fourth component is strategic exposure. And as Jake presented earlier, FedTech has an incredibly extensive network of government agencies, defense prime contractors, commercial companies, research labs, universities, and venture capital funders. And we will give the cohort full exposure to these communities. And then finally, the fifth pillar is community building, because long-lasting relationships, which you need to have to succeed here, that takes time, that takes trust, and it takes a lot of work. And so even after this program finishes, we will consider the participants to be FedTech program alumni and therefore to be important members of our community. And we will continue to offer advice and support as much as we can to help our alumni companies succeed. Next slide. So the timeline, we plan to squeeze a lot of impactful programming into the next 3 months. Applications to join this program are open until September 4th. It's on the Innovation Hub website, and it's on a direct link that we will give you shortly. Company vetting and selection with our InnoHub partners will take about 2 weeks, and we aim to conduct onboarding interviews around September 23rd, thereabouts. Program kickoff is scheduled for September 30th. And will last until the soft landing program, an in-person program in the US, most likely the first week of December, and then the program will conclude on or around December 16th. So it's a tight timeline, but there'll be very impactful. Next slide. So the kickoff, typically, we plan to have a kickoff webinar, as I said, around September 30th, and we use that kickoff to set the stage by giving overviews of how the U.S. Defense Department is organized, how it operates, who are the key stakeholders. We plan to describe other U.S. government organizations who may be potential partners or customers for Lithuanian dual-use technology. We will introduce the regulatory requirements for foreign companies who wish to work in the U.S. We will introduce the cohort to the investor and venture capital ecosystems in the U.S. and give some advice about how to engage them effectively. And we will begin to share some best practices for conducting customer discovery effectively with U.S. commercial and government partners. And that kickoff event really will give the cohort strong forward momentum as we introduce more detailed knowledge and exposure over the following 12 weeks. Next slide. So as I mentioned, we plan to hold 1-hour virtual workshops every week where topical experts will offer instruction and guidance on a range of topics that we believe any foreign company that wants to enter U.S. markets needs to know. And the list is here. It includes topics like government procurement and acquisition channels, how to be a subcontractor to a defense prime contractor, how to work with U.S. resellers, how to open an office in the U.S., how to understand possible ITAR requirements or restrictions on sensitive technologies that may affect you, how to pitch your technology effectively to a diverse set of American audiences, and a lot of other very relevant, useful topics. We will also have weekly open office hours, and you will meet, as I mentioned, weekly with your advisors. Let's talk about that. So this is one of the key components of our program. As I mentioned, we're going to assign every company its own expert advisor who will meet with the company every week. And as I said, they will have deep experience working with the military or in the commercial sector or as startup founders or as technology experts. And we really will do our best to match the best advisors to each company based very specifically on company needs. Next slide.
Okay, let's talk about this soft landing week. And we had a question that will be related to this. So do we have an idea of which conference the program would be connected to? So I'm going to answer that live right now. So right now we don't know. We're waiting till all the applications have come in until we understand what the makeup of the companies that have applied. And if they are mostly aerospace, then we're going to be focused on one that is aligned with aerospace. If it's just general dual use, if it's manufacturing, whatever it is, we're going to try and find that conference that best aligns with it within the time frame allotted. So one, for example, is the Defense Manufacturing Conference, which is a really good conference if you're looking to be a supplier to the defense industry here in the US. That's where you'll meet all your customers. We are firm believers that conferences are the best opportunity to maximize your the value of coming to the US. And it's not just about attending conferences, it's about being active participants. We will show you all the strategies that you need to make the most of it. It's not walking around and just, randomly checking out booths. It's having a very strategic understanding, having a plan, having a follow-up, having meetings ahead of time, all those kinds of things we'll talk about as well. So the idea here is probably going to be towards the end of the year, end of the calendar year, in the US. The Defense Manufacturing Conference, for example, excuse me, is in Austin, Texas. But we are going to be targeting ones that are really the most impactful for you. If it's ones that you're just the entire cohort is focused on raising money from investors, then we'll have one that's more focused on that. So it really depends on which conference you go to, but whatever one that is, we're going to make sure that it's most relevant to the most number of companies in the cohort. And we're going to prepare you to have the maximum exposure and opportunities for partnership and revenue and growth and those kinds of things. So the preferred criteria here, we want to see that you're ideally generating revenue. If that's kind of a big thing, because that kind of generally means that you are primed to be entering the US. However, if you are a deep tech company and you've spent a lot of money and raised a lot of money on just building your technology and getting it from technology to the product stage, then that's something we'll also consider. So this is kind of a rough ballpark of preferred criteria. Dual use technology solution. So can it serve both government and commercial customers? Doesn't have to be both at the same time. It could be commercial first and then government you're interested in down the line, or it could be government first and then commercial down the line. So just note that we know that most companies don't start off going after them both at the same time. And then lastly, this one is most important. Are you prepared to expand to the US and in whatever way that looks for you and what expansion means to you? But that is going to be the key focus of our program. Okay, what does this look like from the detail standpoint? We're looking at, again, submitting the application by September 4th. The cohort will start on September 30th. We'll notify you. We'll have interviews after the applications are in, and it'll go till about mid-December. We're focused on dual use companies or companies that will be dual use in their product roadmap. Our network size is massive as well. So we're going to make sure that the mentors that we get for you, advisors, are specifically most relevant for you. We are the best dual use accelerator in the US. We can say that with confidence, given all of our experience. We have world-class mentorship, weekly webinars, soft landing week, all that is included. The fee per company, 25,000 euros. You will get 20,000 of that back upon completion of the program. And so the overall cost per company would be 5,000. This excludes the travel and travel-related expenses here in the US as well.
All right. So now the call to action. If your company is interested in entering U.S. markets with our help, please apply. You go to the Innovation Agency website or at www.fedtech.io/LTA, which will bring you to that same application portal. And the deadline is September 4th. And when you make that application, please let us know and also indicate on the application that you're interested specifically in the Lithuania to America Accelerator program.
Yeah, and just another note there, if you're not sure of if you think you'd be a good fit based on what we've shared in the past today, then just reach out to us, and you can reach us at lithuania@fedtech.io. And just we can have a quick 15-minute call if you want, 30-minute call, whatever it takes to get to do a little assessment. Or if you want to just send us a deck and let us know, what your company's all about. We can even do it asynchronously and let you know if we think you'd be a good fit for the program. Okay, that is, yeah, and so that's the this is where we're located. As you can see, really close to the heart of DC here. So this is our if you go to fedtech.io/LTA. The information more about the program will be on there. Again, you can email us at Lithuania@fedtech. We're also on LinkedIn as well. And with that, we are going to go to questions here. So can we apply to both FedTech and LT mission to DC on October? Carolis, that may be a better question for you. I'm not sure what the LT mission entails.
If somebody wants to clarify, I'm assuming there's a group of startups coming to TechCrunch Disrupt. Is that?
And you can come off mute if you want, Lori, and answer that.
Hi. Yeah, it's the mission organized by Lithuanian Embassy in USA related to that event. And the application document is written that both are eligible to cover the cost, but I'm not sure whether we can apply to both.
Those are separate things, but actually I'd like to call Vidmantas from Innovation Agency just perhaps to definitively confirm that they can do both.
I recall that from last year. That was tied to the AUSA conference, the big annual Army conference held here in Washington, D.C. And I remember being there and meeting with a Lithuanian commercial attaché and with a number of Lithuanian companies on that trip. It is a very useful, impactful trip, but it is very separate from our FedTech program.
Yeah, so Vidmant is here. My answer is since those are two separate things, so you should, if you will decide to apply to this program, you have to go through the program. If the question was, is it possible to compensate, for example, travel costs through this one? So no, it's not possible to compensate travel costs to another event.
Does that answer the question? I'll take the next one. One of the three main mentioned criteria was dual use product. Is it applicable for companies developing, producing military use products? Yes, very much. As you've heard, we have a very good relationship across the board with the DoD innovation entities and agencies. So if you have defense specific technology, that is very applicable to our program.
Yeah, and that's kind of the kind of answers the next question as well. Do you mean government and commercial or defense and civilian? So the answer to that is I'll try and answer that in the way I understand the question here. So and give you some examples as well. So government and commercial could be something like health tech, something that helps our government agencies or military members become more healthy, maybe a wearable sensor or something like that monitors the health of them. That can also be used both in government and also for civilians or commercial. It could be sold to large hospital systems that can monitor their patients, or it could be maybe it's directly to consumer and maybe they're working with the same kind of product. And so it is fairly open. And like I said, it doesn't have to be, you have to be pursuing both at the same time. We actually think that's not a usual winning strategy for early stage companies. It's usually focused on one, but that has applications for both. So we also focus directly on just defense as well. So ones that are only right now that are relevant for military. So I guess ones that we wouldn't, we usually don't take on are ones that are things like, you know, crypto apps or something like that, you know, or really software based only products that focus on direct to consumer, maybe like a travel application that helps you book travel, you know, easier or something like that. Those are the kind of things we generally stay away from, if that helps you understand. What other questions does anyone have? Hopefully that's helpful there. Anyone have any other questions? You can come off mute. You can raise your hand. You can type in Q&A. We're also going to be sharing this as well with the group once we're finished and process this recording.
Maybe I can ask again regarding space industry. So we work in that industry, and the question is, do you have any mentors that have experience there?
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
We definitely do. But to answer your earlier question, Laurie, we haven't worked with international space companies before. The tech verticals from X-Tech International were not aerospace, but we've done a number of domestic aerospace accelerator programs and have mentors who have long experience working on space and aerospace issues. So yes, we do.
Is it possible to know the people, the profiles of these mentors? I mean, they're public.
Yeah, I mean, for privacy reasons, I don't know if I can give names without their permission, but we can give you kind of an idea of their, you know, typically of what the background is. Yes.
Okay.
And I will do that. I have your contact information. I will follow up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure we've had a company that we have not been able to find very specific mentors and relevant mentors for. I don't, at least not in the past 7 or so years that I've seen. So yeah. Good questions. Can you share more about the educational programming? Jeff, yeah, you want to take this one?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we have a repository of, I would say, hundreds of educational webinars that cover every single aspect of entering U.S. markets or partnering with the Defense Department, or for an international company, how to open an office and how to operate successfully in the U.S. And as Jake mentioned, we curate our programming very specifically to the cohort. So what we will do is, once we have the selected cohort, we will reach out and schedule one-on-one interviews with each company to find out what are your needs, what do you need to learn, what are your expectations, what are your requirements, and we will tailor the educational webinars accordingly. But basically, I feel like we have every aspect covered of how, for a non-U.S. company, how to be successful at entering and being successful in the U.S. commercial and government markets.
Yeah, and I just want to also add that in addition to the educational program, which is going to be customized for your specific situation, we have these one-on-one mentoring sessions, the open office hours. You're going to get hyper customized information for you. It's not going to be stuff that's, you know, it's going to be canned presentation that we send to you. It's going to be definitely very interactive and very intimate, because we can only accept, I think, 12 companies maximum in our program at the highest amount. So some of our programs, we have 24 companies at once. So it's going to be very focused on you. How many hours per week approximate engagement are expected from participants? Jeff, you want to take that one again?
Yeah. So, I mean, the more time you put into it, the better you position yourself for success. But at the minimum, it would be attending the 1 hour weekly workshop, and then it would be meeting 1 to 2 hours with your mentor. And then we anticipate, or we encourage customer discovery on your part. You have to do some of your own outreach for a few hours a week. So it could be anywhere from 3 to 5 to 8 hours a week, I would say.
Yeah, and the more successful company is, there's a very clear relationship between the more hours you put in, the better outcomes you're going to get. And so it really is up to you and how motivated you are to expand into the US. That's really kind of the bottom line there. The next question is about what team size and specific expertise will be involved from participating company, any prerequisites. So that's a really good question. So the team size, we don't specify specific team size. However, if you are a 500 person company, it's probably unlikely that you're not already in the US potentially, or have relationships in the US. So it's generally going to be on the smaller size. I don't want to give an exact number. Specific expertise, I will tell you, is probably going to be the person who is going to be customer facing. So maybe the CEO, maybe the head of business development, because what your mission is going to be to try to do is build those relationships. Maybe in a strategy role on go to market. Those are kind of the expertise we're looking for. They of course need to understand the product at a deep level, which they should, but not an extremely deep level, because you can always pull in the technical person usually in those conversations for further discussions with potential partners and customers. That and the prerequisites, as I mentioned, preferred. This is really preferred criteria. So we don't necessarily have any prerequisites, hard prerequisites, other than you're prepared to expand to the US is probably the primary one there. Okay, if we have developed the product and we need mainly evaluation of it and sales channel, decision maker contacts from MOD, I'm assuming you mean DOD there, Department of Defense. Is this program then suitable?
If my understanding is, yes. I mean, we do have a lot of relationships with across the DoD ecosystem. There are a number of testing and evaluation entities, and of course, they would want to evaluate it very carefully. And we have great relationships with them. We can make those introductions, and then it would be. I mean, everything is a problem solution fit or a product market fit. In terms of sales channels with the DoD, we would go into depth about what the different procurement and acquisition channels are. It is very complicated, but companies who are dedicated to it are successful. And in terms of decision maker contacts from the DoD, meaning the different programs of record or other programs, again, we can help you make those introductions and help you establish those relationships. And so the program would be suitable, but just a reminder that this is the kind of engagement that does take time and does take a lot of work and does take patience and resilience. But it's based on your question, it sounds like it is a suitable program for you.
Yeah, agree. Okay, next question, and this is good. Keep it coming. This is great. Would it be a good fit for startups looking at international markets generally, but unsure if US is the destination? Any thoughts on that? Why would the programming be useful for such startups? Great question. I would say the US is such a broad, large market that is generally favorable for most companies looking to expand internationally. It's the largest market for dual use companies. So I would say if you are a dual use company that is focused on expansion, you should be looking at the US, period. Now, if you want to if you think you're ready to go into the US immediately, or want to go somewhere else first, I think you should ultimately be expanding to the US, is our belief. So whether you're ready to do so immediately or in the near future, that's something I think you should definitely consider for your technology if it fits within the preferred criteria above.
And it's also a question that would lend itself to, email us, set up a call, and we can talk very specifically, because it depends on what technology you're developing.
Yeah, it's a great point, Jeff. It's hard to give generalities to every situation. So we're happy to have a conversation and explore it more, and we'll give you a much more bespoke answer there. Okay, so participation is not limited to one person from company. In other words, can we have several reps to participate depending on the sub theme? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is definitely open to multiple people within your company. I think, you know, there's probably a point where there's too many people, depending on how many, you know, if you have dozens of people in your company, you probably don't want them all to receive the same information. But we actually like when there's more than one person from your company, because then you can work together on some of the milestones, and you're kind of getting the information directly from us instead of one person having to, you know, distill that information down to others. So I strongly encourage that. Jeff, thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Like in past programs with international companies, typically 2 or 3, sometimes even 4 representatives from that company will actively participate. So we encourage that. But as Jake said, there's a diminishing returns after about 4 people from a company.
Great questions. Keep them coming. We've got about 17 more minutes before we have to end this. What other questions? I see something in the chat. Oh, that's Carlos. Okay. Yeah, anything you're wondering about, you know, submitting application is not you know, commitment. Neither is having a call with us as well. So we're happy to walk through your situation, which program, and if we're not the best program for you, we're happy to refer you to other programs that we know and trust to be more beneficial for you. What other questions? You can come off mute if you want and raise your hand, whatever, shout it out.
I'll ask a question, just something that came up. There's a few companies that offer essentially like web development services, but that can be sold into various industries. And I know there's a person here in the audience that represents at least one such company. So would love to hear your take on, you know, how selling into this sector services like that would work. Is it even feasible? Yeah, we'd just love to hear generally about basically like where they can spin up teams that, you know, do development services from Lithuania.
Yeah, and then that's a good question, because I was actually just working with a federal lab. Well, it's a consortium of different agencies and labs that were actually looking at website services, and they came to us first of how can we help them, and so there's a lot of opportunity there. What you'll find is some of it is very relationship based, so it is really important to establish those relationships. But you know, governments need websites, right? And some of them are a lot more complex than others. And certainly, if you're developing something on the internally facing, you need to have the right IT controls in place to serve them, and it's important to understand that. So those actually in the US are called CMMC, so cybersecurity maturity model certification, and there's different levels of it, 1 through 3. There's also FedRAMP, there's ISO, there's all different regulations around providing software services to the government. So this is highly relevant as well. And then others want to have public-facing websites as well, and so those are a lot less controlled than the working on internal websites. But I think it's highly relevant. You know, there's all different opportunities that come out that are released that work through prime contractors that we have relationships with. That we actually bid on one that recently that required software services, and we're partnering with a company to or we partner with a company to help to submit that proposal to make it stronger. So absolutely, it applies. Good question.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Based on your, thank you for the terrific briefing, by the way. And based on your previous response as to how many people per company can participate, would the soft landing week involve as well a few people? I mean, would that depend on the company? How many people we would like to send there, or that would be limited to some number, specific number?
Yeah, so that's the part that a lot of these programs leave the costs up to, we leave the costs out of this. So like you cover your own travel costs. You can bring as many people as you want, or one person, and we again think it's probably best to have 2, 3, or 4 probably to come, but we leave that completely up to you. I mean, if you're at a conference and it's big enough, you kind of want to have the maximum coverage possible to get the most out of it, all things being equal, but that's completely up to you. Good questions. What other questions? I'll just leave it open for another few seconds for anyone to ask.